I call the town meeting of West Boylston of October 16th, 2017 to order. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll ask that you remain standing for a moment of silence in remembrance of our neighbors who've died since we last met, and for our brave men and women serving in the armed services all over the world. Thank you. You may be seated. As for being seated, anyone who is not a registered voter in the town of West Boylston, would you please sit on the far right in the first 4 rows? If there are any advisors to town boards, you can sit with the board or the committee that you advise. On votes requiring a simple majority vote, it'll be a voice vote. If the voice vote is too close to call, in my judgment, we will use the cards that you received when you came in. But everybody hold up your card at this time. If you did not get a card, you need to make sure you get a card. And when you vote, you only get to raise 1 card, so don't get extras. This vote early, vote often stuff does not fly here. If considering the business before us, you desire to amend a motion, the motion must be made in the affirmative, and it must be documented using a motion to amend form, which you may get from the assistant town clerk over here. Thank you, Wayne. There are microphones at the head of each aisle. If you have something to say, please don't stay in your seat and raise your hand. Just come down to the microphone and you'll be recognized. Please direct your comments to the moderator and not to anybody who may have spoken previously. That helps us to keep the debate civil, and you guys are great at it, and so you make my job really easy, so thank you very much. But I still have the job to do, so that will facilitate the debate and discussion being civil and orderly and respectful, and so please observe that as you're making your comments. West Boylston does not have formal rules of order. We do rely informally upon town meeting times, but there's no formal Robert's Rules of Order or anything like that. So, as I said, if you have something to say, just come to the head of the aisle. I may ask you to confine your comments to the matter at hand. When we start getting beyond the scope, the meeting goes longer and we start discussing things that are not the business of the town before us tonight. And so if I ask you to move on, please be respectful of that. Also, to be respectful, please silence your mobile devices. Obviously, if you're in public service and you have a beeper or something, that's fine, but everyone else, if you're not a first responder, please silence that. A motion is now in order to waive the reading of the remainder of the warrant and the return of service thereto, and to refer to it as subject matter only. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Ruccio. Any second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Article 1 before us tonight is for an authorization to hear the reports of officers and committees of the town. Is there a motion?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to hear the reports of the officers and standing committees of the town.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's hear from the town committees. I believe, go ahead, Mr. Head.
I just want to let everybody know, our new police station is finished. We're going to have an open house October 28th, from 11 to 1. Everybody's invited. Came out beautiful. The town should be proud of what we accomplished, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Adam.
We have one more thing from the FISC.
Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I'm Phil. Sorry. Hello, everyone. Hello. I'm Phil Mallett, 8 Emily Drive. On behalf of the FISC Committee, we wanted to bring you up to date on the new Senior Center project. As you can see from the drawing, the floor plan here, we've hired an owner's project manager, Tony DeLuzio of Cardinal Construction, and an architect, John McMillan of Keola and Bannock. I hope most of you noticed that this is the same cost-cutting and design team which delivered the new police station for the town so successfully. We're in the cost estimating phase on the Senior Center project, getting ready to go out for firm construction bids. We'll provide those to you at a special town meeting in early February. We'll have a full presentation for you at the special town meeting, a complete dog and pony show. For some reason, it's already been voted that I'm to be the dog, and the jury is out on who's going to be the pony. The Proposition 2.5 vote will be a week after the special town meeting. So make a note to look for announcements of the town meeting and vote after the first of the year. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Anything else from FISC? Solid Waste Advisory Team?
Julianne De Rivera, 148 Goodale.
I think you don't have the microphone is not on for you there.
He's a council on aging.
I'm pleased to present the following update. SWAT found that trash... Can you hear me now?
Can you raise the mic a little bit for her, please? There we go.
Get it right in the...
Thank you. So SWAT has found that trash-wise, fiscal year 2017 was better than fiscal year 2016. Our trash tonnage went down by 4.5%. Our recycling tonnage was up 6%, and the net cost to our trash recycling program decreased by 4.3%. This is good news, and we want to continue moving in this direction. For example, we are looking into a free curbside pickup program for textiles, as is being done in Natick. This diverts textiles from entering our landfill, which is quickly reaching its maximum capacity. In addition, we have welcomed a new member to our solid waste advisory team committee, Mr. Dwayne Henry. Thank you.
Thank you. Council on Aging?
Thank you. My name is Bob Chisholm. I live at Hillside Village Drive, and I'm reporting on behalf of the Council on Aging. We're pleased to report that our senior center has had another very good year. Attendance is up, and we've squeezed a few more programs into our already tight quarters. There is a definite sense of hope-filled excitement in the air, heightened by the progress being made toward the long-awaited new senior center becoming a reality. The programs we've conducted this year include a wide variety of health clinics, as well as professional, legal, and taxpayer assistance, guest speakers, and fun events, not just bingo. We support our seniors with Registry of Motor Vehicles issues by being a certified RMV Near Me Center. The exercise and fitness programs maintain their popularity, and the arts workshops continue to be well attended. Our Wii bowling team is enjoying their league competition against other senior centers in the region. And our pool table has become a hub of activity with beginner's pool instruction an especially big hit. Our guest speaker series has included political, local and state dignitaries, as well as educational teachers. On those occasions when professional entertainment is offered, the performers can usually fill the room. By relying very heavily on volunteers, we are able to deliver robust programs without spending a lot of money. Some programs do request a modest donation from the participant. Others are conducted by professionals offering pro bono work. And still others are sponsored by wonderful local community partnerships. We would be remiss if we did not mention the Friends of the West Boylston Senior Center. This is the group that provides funds needed for the monthly newsletter and supplies for some of the programs and special events. Our senior center is, and always will be, a community resource for all. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. And someone from the library?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Anna Shaw. I am the director of the Beaman Memorial Public Library. The trustees of the library asked me to address town meeting this evening. I want to thank our friends in the community who donated items, sponsored our events, and came out to support our library's Lucky Friday the 13th fundraiser this past Friday at the Manor. The money we raised goes towards our library's endowment, managed by the Greater Worcester Community Foundation. Our endowment is still in the growing phases, but its purpose is to go above and beyond the level of basic services required for state certification, which are currently funded by the town. On tonight's warrant is a request for $1,500 in funding to install an updated phone system for the library. Our current multi-line system is outdated, and we plan to replace it this year. Just in time, L&J's screen printers donated a gently used phone system that will meet our needs for many years to come. This donation has reduced the amount of funding needed from the town by thousands of dollars. This fall, we received another technology donation of 10 gently used computers from Unitrends. This allowed us to upgrade our oldest computers at a fraction of the cost. We are so grateful to these organizations for thinking of us. For over a year, we have had a volunteer working to unearth treasures in our archives and in the library's West Boylston room. He's been writing about our unique local history on the library's Facebook page. We have partnered with the high school's internship program, and this semester we have a student who's helping us archive these social media posts onto the library's webpage. Visit us at beamanlibrary.org for more information. And a big thank you to the College of the Holy Cross. They have given our library a gift that allows us to extend our Saturday hours. The library's Saturday hours through the end of May are from 10 till 5 p.m. I hope to see you at the library soon. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Any other boards or committees that we're going to hear from tonight? Hearing none, let's move to Article 2. Authorization to pay bills from previous fiscal years. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move to pass over this article.
Second.
There's no discussion of a motion to pass over, and so we will take a voice vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, passed over. Article 3, authorization to modify fiscal year 2018 appropriations and other necessary adjustments to the fiscal year 2018 budget. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to raise and appropriate the following amounts to fiscal year 2018 appropriation accounts. $5,000 for WBPA salaries and wages, $9,400 for cemetery salaries, $2,000 for Conservation Commission salaries, and $50,000 for snow and ice supplies.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any presentation or explanation?
I can offer an explanation. The $5,000 for the WBPA salaries and wages is needed Well, first off, this is the general article that we have every year to fix our budget halfway through the year or partway through the year. So we need $5,000 in the cable fund. The cable system became a part of the operating budget this year, and we need to appropriate the $5,000 so that equals the amount of the cable receipts that are transferred into the account, and that was just to correct an error. The cemetery board wage account needs to be increased by $9,400 due to an increase in the number of hours per week for our cemetery laborer employee, and based on the increased average number of hours per week worked by the employee, we're now obligated by federal law to pay him benefits such as vacation, leave, and sick time. The Conservation Commission revolving fund has not been bringing in adequate revenues to cover the wages for the clerk. While they're working to increase the application fees before the end of the year, there's a projected deficit which must be addressed. And the snow and ice account, we've always historically underfunded the snow and ice account because it's the only account that you can overspend. When you set the budget for that account, it cannot go down ever. So us and many other towns will historically underfund it. It's now become ridiculously underfunded. So we're looking to transfer $50,000 in anticipation of overspending that account. That will lower the amount we're going to have to spend later. It's not going to eliminate it. A few storms and we blow that budget. And moving forward, we plan to budget at a little bit higher rate because we're so far underfunded that we know that we're going to have this hole in our budget at the end of every winter.
Thank you. Are there any recommendations or comments from town boards?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee looked at this article closely. We chose to endorse this article, but wanted to make sure a couple of things were clear. First of all, this is additive to the tax rate. It takes advantage of some unused levy capacity and will add nominally about 8 cents per thousand of tax. But it's a little bit unusual for a fall town meeting. We looked at it very carefully. There's a lot of new expenses that are coming up. The Board of Selectmen are contemplating bringing on board a full-time facilities manager. We've got a couple of new facilities coming online, and we thought it was prudent to take advantage of the levy capacity that exists right now.
Thank you. Any other comments or recommendations from town boards or committees? Any discussion? As the citizen is making her way down, I'll point out to the townspeople that you need to say your name and your address loudly, clearly, and slowly so that Ms. Novia can record it properly. So I get to help her out with this one if necessary.
Sandy Mindersma, 20 Maple Street. Through the moderator, Mr. Crowley, I just want to know how far overspending are we spending the snow and ice? Is it hundreds of thousands? Is it millions of dollars? What kind of number are we talking about?
Mr. Crowley, or someone else?
Anita, do you have those numbers handy? I can give an approximate.
Okay.
It's hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, not millions. It differs every year. It depends on how much snow we get.
Right. Is it in the 200 universe or is it in the 800 universe?
The 200 universe.
Okay.
2 to 300.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Article 4. Application of bond premium. Is there a motion?
There is. To see if the town will vote to supplement each prior vote of the town that authorized the borrowing of money to pay cost of equal capital projects to provide that in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20 of the general laws. Premium received by the town upon the sale of any bonds or thereunder, unless such premium applied to the payment of the cost of issuance of each such bonds or notes may be applied to pay project costs, and the amount authorized to borrow for each project be reduced by the amount of any such premium so applied or taken any other action relative thereto. And I didn't have to read that whole thing, it just dawned on me. So, motion, but it is Monday night. I move the town vote to appropriate Article 4 is printed in the warrant, deleting the words or taking any other action relative thereto.
Second.
Thank you. Any explanation or presentation here?
Currently, any board premium received by the bank we are borrowing from must be used to pay the issuance or interest of the bond, but acceptance of this statute allows the premium funds to be used towards project costs to reduce the overall amount required to be borrowed. From what I'm told and understand, this is similar to buying a new car receiving $3,000 cash back to be used to decrease the purchase price of the car.
Thank you. Any comments or recommendations from town boards or committees?
Finance Committee recommends approval.
Thank you. Any others? Any discussion from the public?
Over here.
Come on down, please, and thank you.
My only discussion is, you can't hear you folks. You have to talk directly into them. These are directional mics. That means that you have to talk directly into them. You can't be down here, up here, over there, because we can't hear you back there. What you're saying is important, and I know what you're saying is good, but you need to talk into the mic. Thank you.
Could you give your name and address so the assistant town clerk can report it properly?
Jack McCormick, 175 Maple Street.
Thank you very much, Mr. McCormick. Any further discussion? Now that we have the admonition to speak up. Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Article 5, authorization to purchase a replacement ambulance. Is there a motion?
Yes, Mr. Moderator. I move the town vote to transfer from ambulance receipts reserve fund the sum of $295,000 to purchase a new replacement ambulance and any related equipment and expenses for the fire department.
Second.
Any explanation or presentation?
Absolutely. So we typically have a rotating schedule every 5 years nominally we're bringing in a new ambulance. The ambulance we're replacing, ambulance 2, is 9 years old, so this will coincide with that normal time. Chief Welch may want to chime in on this as well.
Sure.
Chief Tom Welsh, Fire Chief here in West Boylston. We're looking to replace our 2008 Ford Econoline van ambulance, which has had 76,000 hard miles put on it. As most of you know, an ambulance, when it goes out outdoors, it's pedal to the metal. They're hard miles. Over the years, the ambulance has developed oil leaks, and we've had them repaired a couple of times, and they keep coming back. It's a hard truck to maintain because of being a van concept. The motor's up underneath the dashboard. And the actual cost of the ambulance is $250,000, but we're also included an electric stretcher into this because of the new specifications from what they call a triple K spec, which are the national standards that an ambulance has to have. So in the event of a rollover, that patient is going to stay secured to that ambulance. And the other benefit is it's going to help on our labor from lifting heavy patients with the injuries to their backs. We have less and less people that are responding out on our ambulance calls. There's usually 2 paramedic and a basic EMT that are on these calls, so this will help assist, expedite those, and keep those patients safer. The other things that are rolled into there are better standards for the EMTs that are in the back of the apparatus. They're secured so that they can still function and do their job, but a better harnessing mechanism, able to reach the radios and do their job while they're still properly secured. and I'm available for any questions if anybody should have any.
Thank you. Are there any recommendations or comments from town boards and committees?
Finance Committee and Capital Investment Board recommend approval.
Thank you. Any others? Let's have discussion from the public, please. And don't forget to speak clearly into the microphone.
I will. Rob Parslow, 408 Worcester Street. When we decommissioned the 2008, do we get any trading value? Or is there any value that the town gets back from the one that we're trading in? I mean, I know it's kind of old technology, but I just wasn't sure if we get anything back from it.
Anyone from the town have an answer? Chief?
That will be determined when we go to negotiations with the dealership. Sometimes they do give you a trade-in value, or other than that, it will go to a municipal auction, and whatever money we get from that will go back, I believe, to the general fund. But, you know, the ambulance might be worth just, you know, as a backup ambulance to a fire department that doesn't have anything, but it's not really to be used as a primary ambulance anymore. So there are those places that you can sell it. And again, just like the next article, we'll see what will be determined when we get in negotiations with these dealerships.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Jessica Clorio, 355 Maple. It says we have a state contract. Is that like through a specific dealership? Or is that, where are we getting these ambulances from?
Anyone from the town able to answer?
Mr. Moderator, permission to speak?
Please do.
Anita Shipers, Town Administrator. For various different types of equipment that the town purchases annually, there are established state contracts, meaning that the state has already done their due diligence to determine qualified vendors to sell these different pieces of equipment under joint procurement status. So we're able to take advantage of that procurement process that's already been done, vetted by the state, and we are eligible to purchase off those state contracts as well for this type of equipment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Article 6. To borrow funds for purchase of replacement fire truck. Is there a motion?
Yes, Mr. Moderator. I move the town vote to borrow the sum of $575,000 to purchase a new replacement fire truck and any related equipment and expenses for the fire department, and to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the selectmen, is authorized to borrow said sum and issue bonds and notes therefore under General Law, Chapter 44, and or any other enabling authority. Any premium received upon sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of the costs of issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to the payment of the cost approved by this vote in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20 of the General Laws, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by a like amount.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any presentation or explanation?
Yes, I'm sure Chief Welsh will chime in on this as well, but we're looking to replace existing engine 3 and the rescue truck. Engine 3 is 26 years old, the rescue truck is 23 years old, and this new truck will replace both of them. It's also worthy of note, this will be paid for within our current taxing authority, so this isn't going to be a Proposition 2.5 override. It's simply available under our current taxing structure. Right now, there's a street drainage project that was originally on the tax rolls that will be paid down this year, and this will replace the amounts that we're going to that.
Thank you. Any recommendations or comments from town boards or committees? Hearing none. Chief, go ahead.
Chief Tom Walsh. Just to reiterate, we've been before the Finance Committee for a couple of years, pushing for this fire truck. And we, went back and forth for a couple of years now, and now they've come to the agreement that maybe this is the time that we do this. Engine 3 is getting to be an older truck. It's had numerous repairs over the last 3 years. It's beginning to decay and rust from underneath. The rescue truck is also getting to be an older vehicle, and it just doesn't go out the door because of lack of staffing, and we usually run the primary truck out for every rescue call there is. So this new fire apparatus would be called a rescue pumper. So the advantage to this truck would be that it would go out to motor vehicle accidents and to car fires, and it would take the burden off of our new truck, which is 10 years old, and it would help to extend that life on that truck also. So that's what we're hoping to do, and looking for your support tonight.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I will note for your information that because this article involves borrowing, it requires a 2/3 majority. I can call that by a voice vote, but you make it a lot easier if it's unanimous. So let your conscience be your guide. But if we can be unanimous, it means we might be done sooner. So that being said, and vote your conscience. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? I can call that. The ayes have it, and that's more than 2/3. Article 7. Authorization to purchase a replacement four-wheel drive pickup truck. Is there a motion?
Yes, Mr. Moderator. I move the town vote to transfer the sum of $42,000 from the Capital Investment Fund to purchase a replacement four-wheel drive pickup truck with plow and related equipment for the DPW.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any explanation or presentation?
Yes. So this is replacing an existing 2006 Ford F-350. It's got 129,000 miles on it. Heavy rust. The DPW has been doing a good job patching it together with sheet metal and rivets, but it's about that time.
Thank you. Any comments or recommendations from town boards or committees? Any discussion? Hearing none, this is another 2/3 majority because we're moving money from the Capital Investment Fund. Same principle. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? I can call that one too. That's a 2/3 majority. The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Article 8, authorization for parks improvements. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to transfer the sum of $35,000 from free cash to pay for the resurfacing of the tennis courts and basketball courts at Goodale Park.
Second.
Thank you. Any explanation or presentation?
The tennis and basketball courts at Goodale are now starting to wear and showing multiple areas of cracks. This resurfacing is a preventive measure that typically is done every 5 years, or there to keep all the water from entering under the court surface and this extending the overall life of the courts. This is a similar concept to sealing an asphalt driveway.
Thank you. Any comments or recommendations from town boards or committees?
The Finance Committee recommends approval, as does the Capital Investment Board.
Thank you. Any others? Any discussion?
Good evening, Jean Glaney DeCenzo from 12 Pinecroft Ave. So I could be wrong, but I think the courts at Goodale Park just got resurfaced. Is that the one right out here, right by the high school?
Yes.
Mr. Myra, for me.
Please.
Okay.
Jim Pedoni, Pheasant Hill Run Park Commissioner. Those courts have not been resurfaced since they were installed in 2011. This would be the first time.
Okay, because they look pretty good.
The tennis courts are in better condition than the basketball courts. However, you know, the first time you go to resurface, it has a shorter life. So hopefully this will be a longer period of time before we'll have to resurface them again. But realistically, it all depends on the amount of use, and we need to monitor them to make sure that we preserve them. Otherwise, we'd end up having to rip up the asphalt, put new asphalt, and start over. It'd be much more costly.
Thank you.
So I might be digressing a little bit but on Woodland Street, there's 2 tennis courts in the park right by CVS. And there's grass running from cracks, running from people you don't really see people playing on them. So I'm just putting this out there that the fastest growing racket sport, can I just say that?
Well, it's...
I'm digressing.
Yeah, you're getting out of the scope.
Yeah. So anyways,
this is just for Goodale. So if you have something about Goodale, then yeah, continue. If it's for Woodland...
Well, it is about Goodale Park. So anyways, the fastest growing racket sport in the country is pickleball. So if we're gonna resurface courts, you can actually make 2 pickleball courts on the opposite side of the net from tennis courts. So if you could maybe consider that, all of us old folks can get out and get a little more exercise. That's it.
Thank you. Further discussion. Ms. Minders.
Hello. 2 questions on this. This park was funded with CPA money. Is there any reason we can't use CPA money now? That's my first question. And my second question is, what is the timing of this?
Thank you. Anybody got answers?
Mr. Moderator,
Go ahead.
I can speak to the CPA funding. If this is considered maintenance, it's not considered an improvement, and CPA funding cannot be used for general maintenance. It can only be used for improvements.
Thank you. And the other question was about the timing. Does anybody have an answer on that one?
Mr. Moderator, as for timing, we will go out to bid immediately once it's approved. So hopefully to get it done this fall.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Yes, please. Ron Menard from 5 Meadowbrook Drive. I'm just questioning that cost. I seal coat my own driveway, which is 65 feet long, 18 feet wide, for under $100. Now, my labor is free, but that's a vast jump, $35,000 just to seal coat, or are we missing something here?
Is anyone able to respond? Mr. Bedard.
So it's not as simple as seal coating. It is actually doing all of the painting for the outline of the actual tennis courts, the basketball courts. We have 3 tennis courts and 2 basketball courts. It's a pretty large area. You know, there is a particular company that always gets referred to, which will probably be the lowest bidder of New England Seal Coating, who does this professionally, and you know, this is within reason as far as what they charge.
Yes, it's on. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Thank you very much, gentlemen. Hearing none. All in favor of Article 8, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
The ayes have it. Article 9. This is for a vote to appropriate funds for Community Preservation Fund projects as recommended by the Community Preservation Committee. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to approve Article 9 as printed in the warrant, deleting the words "or take any other action relative thereto."
Second.
Any explanation or presentation?
This is a yearly article that we've been funding for a affordable housing consultant to assist us with our affordable housing inventory and to make sure that the people that have the affordable housing are following the rules that are laid out by the state.
Thank you. Any comments or recommendations from town boards or committees?
Finance Committee recommends approval.
Any others? Any discussion? come down.
Mr. Moderator, I'm Bernie Dow, I live at 307 Prospect Street, in the town, obviously. It says to fund affordable housing purposes, $25,000, and I think somebody made a comment that this is for an oversight, a person overseeing the affordable housing is within compliance of residents and stuff. Is that right?
That's part of what the affordable housing consultant does.
And can you tell us what else the affordable housing consultant does? For $25,000, I don't think it's a full-time job.
The affordable housing consultant works on an hourly rate.
How much an hour? No idea?
It's based on a contract, an existing contract.
Can I have that job?
It's $105 an hour.
I'm going to take this opportunity to ask you to direct your comments.
Mr. Moderator, can I have that job?
I'll have to
I
check.
didn't get an answer, Mr. Moderator.
Bid on the contract, Bernie.
Is there already an applicant, or?
There's an existing person that has been doing this job. We're on our second person. The first person retired. And as an example of one of the things that this person has done, they've recovered over $18,000 from somebody at Afra Terrace that was renting their property when they're not allowed to under the Affordable Housing Act. That one act paid for nearly a year of that person's services.
Does that money go back to the town?
Yes, it does. With the 40B projects that are in town, we don't have somebody that can volunteer and go to these projects and know the rules surrounding 40B. So this is our advocate that we use on an as-needed basis so that we don't get steamrolled, frankly, when a 40B project tries to come into town.
He's an oversight person.
Yes.
So you have the big 40B going up in Oakdale, which is...
And that person has been heavily, that's one of the things they're doing. They're heavily involved in making sure that the contractors follow the rules.
So the state is not involved in oversight for 40B housing in regards to tenant compliance. The state's not involved.
We're getting beyond the scope here.
Well, I'm just asking, if the state is involved, why doesn't the state, through the, Mr. Moderator, for you, why doesn't the state have an oversight person that's paid by state funds?
Because the state doesn't have any funds. The CPC, one of the things with the CPC, this is why the CPC exists, one of the reasons. 10% of the money that's raised via the CPC must go to affordable housing things. And this is one of the allowable expenses. The state realized we're not doing that, and they put the mechanism in place for towns to adopt the CPC and be able to expand affordable housing or to do things like this, hire an affordable housing consultant when with absent the CPC, this position would never be funded, and 40B projects come into town and we have to rely on volunteers from the housing, the Affordable Housing Trust to field these questions, and they're not experts in it.
So for the moderator, then this consultant is hired by the town?
Yes.
Of West Boylston? And we don't have one as of now?
We do have one.
But he or she is retiring?
No, this article's been here 4 years in a row. The first consultant retired. We're on our second consultant. They've been with us for approximately 2 years.
Okay. All right. Thanks for the answers. Thank you, Mr. Moyer.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn.
By the way, Bill, can I apply for that job?
Go ahead.
Chris Berglund, 340 Goodale Street. Just to clarify, it's not an employee. This is a consultant. This is someone we outsource to. So it's not an employee of the town. We don't pay benefits or anything for that individual. And to further clarify, we're required by the state to monitor our affordable housing at our expense, not at theirs. So that's part of 40B.
Thank you. Mr. Freeman.
Dave Feeney, 86 Sterling Street. I'm also the chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals in the town of West Boylston. And I just wanted to address about the 40B project, okay? The 40B project comes to the town, it comes to the ZBA. The ZBA is the one that authorizes the comprehensive permit. As far as the Oakdale project, the state does get involved. Mass Housing Partnership is the subsidizing agency. So they have to, so the developer has to get approval from them to have this project. They have to get it before they even come to the ZBA to have the project even looked at. The Mass Housing Partnership also monitors, along with the ZBA, along with affordable housing. Now, just to take this one step further, I have been kept in contact with the building inspector on this 40B project. I've been up there several times investigating it. So, I mean, it's not, you know, we're actually watching this project. But I just want to let people know that Mass Housing Partnership, DHCD, it's a subsidizing agency, so the state is really involved in this too.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks for clarifying. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. I thank you all for a civil discussion. Article 10, authorization to expend WBPA-TV receipts reserved funds. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to transfer the amount of $30,000 from WBPA receipts reserve fund to pay for the purchase and installation of necessary equipment, studio improvements, and the related expenses for WBPA TV local cable channels and programs.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any explanation or presentation?
The improvements needed include the purchase of additional equipment which will allow for the simultaneous live broadcast and recording of 2 public meetings and town hall at the same time, as well as installing sound attention panels to eliminate echoes and sound attention for live or recorded meetings, and the installation of large screen monitors and related transmitters receivers in 2 large meeting rooms to allow for crisper viewing of presentations such as PowerPoint, etc., as well as to allow the live feed of presentations directly to the broadcast equipment, recording equipment.
Thank you. Any comments or recommendations from town boards or committees?
Finance Committee and Capital Investment Board recommend approval.
Thank you. Any others? Any discussion from the public? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Article 11, authorization to expend sewer enterprise funds.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to transfer the sum of $81,000 from sewer enterprise retained earnings to pay year 1 cost of a 20-year plan for sewer system inspections and repairs as mandated by the TEP.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any explanation or presentation?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, the DEP now mandates that every community with sewer systems must develop a multi-year plan to inspect and repair any infiltration and inflow found in the sewer system. Our engineer has developed a 20-plus year plan, which is currently being reviewed by the DEP for their approval. The year 1 costs cover the development of a complete GIS map of the system and also holds funds to put towards any immediate repairs of the system that may be found necessary in fiscal year 18. Any monies not spent will go back to the retained earnings.
Thank you. Any comments or recommendations from town boards or committees?
Finance Committee recommends approval.
Any others? Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Article 12. use of free cash for library phone system installation. Is there a motion?
Yes, Mr. Moderator. I move the town vote to transfer the sum of $1,500 from the free cash to pay for the labor and related expense for the installation of donated phone systems for the Beaman Public Library.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any explanation or discussion?
Hi, Anna Shaw, Library Director. Our phone system is outdated and we had planned to replace it this year. Just in time, L&J Screen Printers was going out of business and they offered us their very gently used phone system. So instead of needing $8,000 to buy a new phone system and install it, we just need $1,500.
Thank you. Town boards or committees, any recommendation or comment?
Finance Committee recommends approval.
Any others? Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Article 13. Authorization to transfer funds to the stabilization fund. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to transfer the sum of $100,000 from free cash into the general stabilization fund.
Is there a second?
Second.
Explanation or presentation?
We are not required, but prudent to keep our stabilization fund at a minimum of 5% so it doesn't affect our bond rating. We're at just about 5% now. Putting this $100,000 will raise us to approximately 5.5%. Means we can use the stabilization fund without dipping below that 5 if need be. It also will help with our upcoming bonding that we're going to have for the police station and the what's remaining on the town hall. The current balance in the stabilization fund is $1,168,000.
Thank you. Any recommendation or comment from the town boards or committees?
Finance Committee recommends approval.
Thank you. Any others? Is there any discussion?
Monica, April 14, Colonial Hill Drive. Just a question, what is our bond rating, Mr. Moderator?
Is there anyone who can answer that question?
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, please.
our current bond rating is AA+, which is very good, and we hope to retain that. We are going to be reevaluated for our bond rating as a process of going up for our permanent borrowing for the town hall and the police station projects. So by putting this money in tonight, it will show Standard & Poor's that we are doing our due diligence for the town by adding additional money into the stabilization account as we're able to.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. And lady.
Thank you, Ms. Shivers.
Sandy Minersma, 20 Maple Street. We're spending this money from free cash. How much money did we have in free cash when the meeting started? If everything is approved, how much are we going to have when it's over?
Mr. Moderator?
Please.
I am very pleased to announce that prior to town meeting, we had $760,000 available in certified free cash, which is very good. So if I can read this number, if assuming that all the articles tonight pass, our available balance on the free cash would be $464,160, which still leaves us with a very good amount, which we will use to offset any deficit spending we end up having on snow and ice if we have a bad winter. We talked about that earlier this evening. And there are some other things that we may be wishing to do with that money at the Springtown meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Article 14. Authorization to transfer funds to the Capital Investment Fund. Is there a motion?
I move the town vote to transfer the sum of $100,000 from free cash into the capital investment fund.
Is there a second? Thank you. Any explanation or presentation?
This is when we have free cash, we want to put it into the capital investment fund so that we can buy the bigger items that the town needs. Before any of the votes that were taken tonight, there was $488,927 in the capital investment fund.
Thank you. Any comments or recommendations from town boards or committees?
Not surprisingly, the Finance Committee and Capital Investment Board recommend approval.
Thank you. Any others? Go ahead and surprise me. Any discussion from the public? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Article 15, authorization to amend the personnel bylaw. Is there a motion?
Yes, there is, town moderator. And thank goodness I don't have to read all that one again. Motion. I move the town vote to move Article 15 as printed in the warrant, deleting the words or taking any other action relative thereto.
Is there a second? Point of order. I'll note that you said you moved that the town vote to move Article 15. Do you mean to approve? And if so, I invite you.
Yeah, it was a typo.
I invite you to amend your motion.
So I move the town to vote to approve Article 15 as printed in the warrant, deleting the words or taking any other action relative thereto.
Is there a second on the amendment?
Second.
We vote the amendment. Oh, any discussion of the amendment? Good. Let's vote the amendment. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, the motion is now to approve Article 15. I hope I got that right. Town council nodded, that was a good sign. So is there any explanation on Article 15 or any presentation?
I'll try. Okay, the article would change the personnel policy to make it the personnel board who is authorized to make amendments in the assignment of employee positions with annual grade and wage schedules.
Thank you. Any recommendations or comments from town boards or committees?
Bylaws Committee recommends approval.
Thank you. Any others? Any discussion?
Jean Glennie DeCenzo from 12 Pinecroft Ave. I just have a question about if a job is reclassified, will existing employees, all the existing employees have a chance to get an upgrade, or how will that work?
Anyone from the town want to answer that?
Yes, Larry Chisholm, 152 Worcester Street, Personnel Board Chair. I'm sorry, repeat your question again, please?
If a job is reclassified, if it's an increase in pay, will all current employees have a shot at that job, or how will that work?
Well, essentially, if the position becomes available and open, obviously a director will be sent for anyone who is interested to apply for that to do so, and then of course we will go through the standard procedure of considering that individual.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Article 16, which is another authorization to amend the personnel bylaw.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to approve Article 16 as printed in the warrant, deleting the words or take any other actions relative to.
There's a second. Thank you, Mr. Rucho. Any explanation or presentation here?
Sorry about that. Change will allow any non-union employee who is required to work on a weekend of a work week that includes a recognized legal holiday to get paid for the appropriate overtime rate, even if he or she has not actually worked 40 hours within the work week. The cemetery employees are the key employee group that this benefits. They routinely are required to work weekends for burials.
Thank you. Any comments or recommendations from town boards or committees?
Bylaws Committee recommends approval.
Thank you.
Moderator, if I may add, also just to add additional context, this will provide a good deal of flexibility, as it was alluded to regarding the cemetery positions, because of the nature of their work. And as we can all understand, sometimes that really can't be predicted. So this would give that additional breathing room should any activities that warrant their function occurring, and we can adjust to that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please. Come on. I might not see this. Just come on down, please. Thank you.
I'm burning down 307 Prospect Street. I think Mr. Hadley stated it was a non-union employee.
Correct.
It doesn't say a non-union employee. It says an employee. The explanation says an employee. Any employee who is required to work weekend hours during a work week is required, is paid his or her rate, right? Et cetera, et cetera.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, please.
The personnel policy applies to non-union employees.
Okay.
The overtime provisions for any union employees are within their union contract.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Good question. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Article 17. Authorization to amend general bylaws.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to approve Article 17 as printed in the warrant, deleting the words, "or take any other action relative thereto."
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Crown. Is there any explanation or presentation?
Mr. Moderator?
Please.
I have a brief presentation. Is it possible for me to give the presentation sitting at my seat?
Please do.
Thank you. So under Article 17, what we're asking you to do is to approve basically a new article within our general bylaws, and that would be Article 39, Energy Stretch Code. And by accepting this stretch code, what we're doing is accepting slightly higher energy efficiency code standards that would be required for all new residential and commercial construction. This would go into effect on January 1st, 2018. This is all part of the town gearing up to be ready to be eligible for applying for green community status through the state's Green Communities Grant Program. There are 5 criteria that the town has to meet in order to be considered eligible to apply. These eligibility criteria include as-of-right zoning for wind or solar energy generation or research and development facilities. We've already met this requirement. It requires what the state considers expedited application and permitting process within that zoning, and we already meet that eligibility requirement. It requires that the town reduce its energy usage by 20% over a 5-year period, and we've already achieved an 11% savings thanks to the ESCO project that was done 2 years back at the schools and several other town buildings. We have energy saving plans in place to meet the rest of the 9% required within that 5-year period. It also requires that we purchase only fuel-efficient vehicles moving forward. However, the majority of our fleet, all but 4 vehicles, are exempt because they're public safety or large vehicles that exceed the weight limitation. And the 5th criteria is what we're talking about tonight, is to require that all new residential construction over 3,000 square feet or any new commercial or industrial construction would, quote unquote, minimize life cycle energy costs, basically by becoming more energy efficient. So criteria number 5 requires new buildings to be more energy efficient. And municipalities can meet this criteria by adopting the stretch code as a bylaw as we're proposing tonight. This would require all new residential construction and new commercial and industrial real estate construction to be more energy efficient. The stretch code has been discussed before when the town several years ago, did look into the Green Communities program and determine if it was going to be appropriate for the town at that time. And there had been some misconceptions about the stretch code. Some people asked if the stretch code was new or experimental. It is not. It's basically based on the long-standing Energy Star program for homes. Some people were concerned that the stretch code would require that homes be built so tightly that it would be unhealthy. And that is not the case. Luckily, building science and construction has evolved since then, and homes still are allowed to breathe and be healthy. Some people were concerned that homes with oil heat would just not be able to meet that stretch code standard. Obviously, it's easier to meet the stretch code if you have natural gas heating systems, but oil heating systems can be designed to comply. Some people were concerned that any existing home would be required to be updated with this stretch code, and that is not the case. The new stretch code only applies to new residential construction and explicitly exempts additions, renovations, and repairs. It's really not so much of a stretch anymore. Years ago, when this was first brought to being, code compliance required a much lower standard of energy efficiency. But over the years, the code has actually increased in its requirement for energy efficiency. And in July 1st, 2014, the Base Energy Code took effect, which requires almost the same amount of energy efficiency standards as the stretch code. So basically, the new base code has caught up with the stretch code, and very little difference exists today between the two. So people would ask, what is the difference, and what does this mean in terms of cost? Basically, the difference is in the cost for the HERS Energy Rater. This means someone who's certified as an energy rater has to come to the construction site and verify that the energy efficiency that is proposed will actually be met within that construction. This typically adds between $1,600 to $3,000 for a new single-family home. The state does have Mass Save Rebate Program, which covers the cost of most of this, roughly $1,300 to $1,700 for natural gas systems. For all other homeowners, meaning those with oil heat or propane heat, you'd receive annual energy cost savings each year, which would basically cover the increased cost of the program in a maximum of 8 years, typically less. So what will the green community status give us as a town? If we achieve this designation, West Boylston is immediately provided a designation grant in the amount of $140,000, which we can use toward the list of known energy efficiency projects that we have for our various town buildings. In addition, we're then eligible to compete annually for competitive grants available only to green communities within the state. So for a quick summary, the stretch code is no longer as much of a stretch. The requirements under the stretch code are very similar to the existing energy code within our current building code. You do need to have a HERS rater involved in the construction process, but there is a very similar requirement already existing in the base code. The extra cost for this new involvement is offset by energy savings and by the Mass Save Residential New Construction Program. And additions and renovations and repairs to existing residential homes are exempt from the program. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any comment or recommendation from the town boards and committees?
Bylaws committee recommends approval.
Thank you. Any others? Any discussion?
Mr. Moderator, Chris Berglund, 340 Goodell Street. On renovations, God forbid I lose my house to a fire loss. Will I be required to rebuild it in accordance with the stretch energy code?
Yes, new construction.
Yes,
That would not be considered an addition or a renovation, that would be new construction.
So that would be something I should probably check with my insurance company to make sure that I have some kind of a rider in there to accommodate that. Thanks.
Sandy Mindersma, 20 Maple Street. Just for clarification, you were talking about new construction. It's still new construction of 3,000 square feet or more, correct? Or is it all new construction?
Is Mr. Jim Barry from DOER here this evening? Mr. Moderator, could we recognize Mr. Jim Barry? He is an employee of the State's Department of Energy Resources Program, and he could answer that question.
Mr. Barry, please come down and invite him.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Jim Barry. I live in Belchertown, Mass. I work for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the Green Communities Program. My job is to go from town to town and help people understand the 5 hoops you have to jump through in order to get your fingers in the bucket of money. The question with regard to 3,000 square feet, the answer would be all new residential construction regardless of size.
Okay, there's something in there that said something different.
So, so the Green Communities Grant Program was written into law in 2008 under the Green Communities Act. It was written by those folks who write laws. It said that new construction over 3,000 square feet and other construction would have to reduce the life cycle costs of energy and water, etc. When the Green Communities Program was created, the first question was, how do we insist that new construction is energy efficient? How do you do that? And the answer is anyone could propose a solution to the state if they wished. It turns out that really the only way you can insist that buildings are done in a specific format is via this building code. The building code, as you may or may not know, evolves every 3 years. And this particular building code was in the process of evolving. In 2009, there was a version that was really the 2012 code that was being looked at early. And so adopting that code was a bit of a stretch to accept it. That's why it was called a stretch code. But the building code does not specify square footage other than commercial buildings, which means the current version of the stretch code as of January 1 of 2017 specifically states that new commercial building over 100,000 square feet must comply, but it does not have a square foot limit on houses. So houses under 3,000 square feet must also comply with the stretch code. It's a long answer, but the answer is yes, all residential buildings must comply.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barry. Any other questions? It might be wise to stay near the microphone, Mr. Barry.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Burning down 307 Prospect Street with the chair to Mr. Barry. Can I ask him a question?
Yes.
Does Mass Save get involved in every community in Massachusetts?
Mr. Barry?
So the Mass Save program is available to any community that has an investor-owned utility. You folks have a municipal light plant, so a lot of you are not capable of taking advantage of all the Mass Save programs. The Mass Save new residential program is eligible to anyone building a new home in this community if they have natural gas, because natural gas is an investor-owned utility. So this particular program that helps brand new residential construction would be available to anybody who's using natural gas, but not for oil and not for propane.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to ask him. Because don't be fooled. Mass Save will not give you a rebate if there's particular restrictions. So just through the chair, I want people to understand that. So that $1,300 to $1,500 statement about 3 screens ago was not accurate, I don't believe.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn.
Hi, Jill Wilt, 22 Townsend. Did the smart meters have anything to do with this? Is this included in on this, or is that something entirely different? Okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Barry, were you
I was shaking my head. Your smart meters have nothing to do with the stretch code.
Thank you, Mr. Barry. Go ahead.
Ann Parsons Marchant, 103 Central Street. I wonder if it would be possible for the West Boylston building inspector to become HERS Rater certified, saving new neighbors the $1,400 to $1,600 fee.
Interesting question. Mr. Barry, go ahead. Thank you.
Your building inspector could become HERS certified inspector, but not be able to do that function within the town. It would be a conflict of interest. So he or she could become certified and then do that work in another town, and another building inspector in another town could be certified and be done here. But generally, they don't get involved with that. To become a HERS certified person takes a fair amount of education. These are folks that have been doing it for years. Every 10 houses that they work with gets rechecked by someone else to make sure they're in compliance. It's basically a federal HERS program that was invented for the Energy Star for Homes program 20-odd years ago.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. Mr. Dow.
Ernie Dow from 307 Prospect Street. Through the chair to Mr. Barry or anybody here that knows, how much of the town has natural gas accessible?
Does anyone know?
Anybody know? Well, I'll tell you, when I live on Prospect Street, I do not. Matter of fact, it stops, I believe, around Evans Road and all the way up Prospect Street towards the country club, for instance, does not have natural gas, does not have it up on Lee Street either, I believe, because we don't have it. Lee Street doesn't have it. There's no key off of there because I believe the last line is at Evans Road. So I think that that's important to understand it. Even if we build new homes or whatever meets the qualifications, that they won't be qualified because they don't have natural gas. So we may never reach that quota for a rebate of whatever the rebate may be that was stated here. And so, again, don't be misled. It's not as if we have natural gas throughout the town, a residential home.
Thank you, Mr. Dow.
Thank you.
There's not a question pending, Mr. Berry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barry.
Chris Olson, 74 Newton Street. Just a quick question. As I understand it, there are about 350 municipalities in the state of Massachusetts. Approximately how many of them do we know are currently or have been have become green communities?
Mr. Berry, you look like you know the answer.
185 municipalities have gone through all 5 hoops and become green communities and started to receive money. Over half of the population lives in a green community. 207 municipalities that have passed the stretch code are not yet green communities because there's 5 hoops you have to jump through. Many towns choose to take up this issue first because if it fails and they don't choose to spend the effort to do the other 4 programs. So 207, actually I think it's 208, I found out that it was the town of Randall recently passed it at their city council.
Thank you. Mr. Crowder.
Mr. Moderator, can I ask a question of Barry about the savings?
Ask the question.
And I'm Pat Crowley, 64 Bowen Street. When you came before the Board of Selectmen, you talked about the payback from the energy savings. It's not on this slide. I don't recall the information, but I remember it was short. I have a feeling you could explain what the payback is.
Mr. Berry.
Thank you. So we often mention the rebates because, as you probably know, most cities and towns have a Mass Save rebate program available to them. Your municipal light plant does offer some rebates and incentives for people doing energy efficient things, but they're not to the same extent as Mass Save. When we did the cost benefit analysis, in addition to looking at the rebates that reduces the extra cost to comply, we also look at the savings that a homeowner would have in energy costs due to the fact that the home is more energy efficient. And if you look at the more energy efficient heating system, resulting in less energy spent on oil or natural gas or propane, whatever you're using to heat, if you look at some of the more money you spend for saving electricity, you'll find that the dollars that you save for electricity also adds up. The mathematics that we've done have shown that the annual savings in energy usage is higher than the extra cost in a mortgage you would have to increase your mortgage by to pay for the extra money. And the non-Mass Save math was a 7-year payback, I believe. That's a conservative number. Again, without belaboring it, Mr. Moderator, the way to achieve the stretch code compliance offers numerous advantages and options rather than specifically following the specific codes line by line by line. So some people do things like more expensive heating systems, other people do things like better windows, some people do things like better insulation, and those different options have different costs to them. That's why you'll see a range on some of these slides.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And again, thank you all for your thoughtful comments and your respectful debate. Article 18, authorization to amend the general bylaw.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to approve Article 18 as written in the warrant, deleting the words or any other action relative thereto.
Second.
Thank you. As a point of order, I believe it would be or take any other action relative thereto. Did I get that right?
Yes.
At this point, I think it's appropriate to invite you to amend your motion accordingly.
I'm amend my motion to, I move the town vote to approve Article 18 as written in the warrant, deleting the words or take any other action relative thereto.
Is there a second to the amendment?
Second.
Any discussion of the amendment? We're just clarifying that there was a word missing. Hearing none. All in favor of amending the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's amended with respect to taking any other action relative thereto. And now we can hear a wonderful explanation or presentation.
I have a simple explanation. This article was placed on the warrant by the Board of Selectmen at the request of a group of concerned citizens. Acceptance of this new bylaw is the first step towards not allowing the production or sale of recreational marijuana in West Boylston. If this passes, a second article will be brought forward at the next town meeting to amend our zoning bylaw accordingly.
Thank you. Town boards and committees, any recommendations or comments?
Bylaws Committee recommends approval.
Thank you. Any others?
Yes,
Can I speak up? We can't hear that.
The bylaws committee recommended approval. I'm sorry, Mr. McNally is not sitting in the microphone.
Bylaws Committee recommends approval, as does the Planning Board recommends approval.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, if I may, normally, I think you probably know, the Finance Committee doesn't tend to opine on bylaw articles, but we felt motivated on this particular one. At a meeting with the Board of Selectmen prior to the issuance of the warrant, we had requested before this be voted on at town meeting that substantial discourse with the citizens of the town be conducted prior to being voted on at town meeting. To our knowledge, this really has not happened. I think it's a socially charged issue with economic consequences and deserves the full light of discussion. So for that reason, the Finance Committee would move to pass over this article until such time as that discussion has occurred.
I need to ask you to wait a minute. I need to confer with town council, please. Thank you for your patience. I need to point out that because the motion was moved and seconded to approve Article 18, a motion to pass over is out of order. So while we don't have formal rules of order, the general idea is once it's out there for discussion, we discuss it. And so this is a perfectly appropriate time for the discussion to include, we need to look at it more. But that should be part of the discussion, and we can't handle it as a motion to pass over. I'm sorry. So let's discuss. I'm sorry, are there any other comments or recommendations from town boards or committees? Let's discuss.
Chris Berglund, 340 Goodale Street. I guess one of the reasons I think it's necessary to have a more formal public discourse is to expand on what Mr. McCall said, is there's an opportunity here for some revenue for the town. And I think through taxing of one of these facilities would certainly provide, and we don't know what it might provide, because I don't think we've really dug into and researched what might be available to us in that area. So if somebody has some information and wants to bring it forward, that would be great. I'd welcome it. But I would certainly consider that we look at that before we move to jump the gun. Thanks.
Thank you. I believe Mr. Dell was next, then here, then Mr. Vignell.
Ernie Dow, 307 Prospect Street. I think the people, when they voted, knew how they wanted to vote. They knew that there were tax ramifications for every municipality in the state, the 351. This town overwhelmingly, and correct me if I'm wrong, voted not to legalize marijuana in this town, which is...
No, we voted.
We voted, I think it was 58 to 42 or something like that. Am I correct? I'm sorry.
Mr. Moderator?
Order, please. Yes, Ms. Shivers.
The vote on the recreational marijuana question was 2,261 no, 2,082 yes, with 76 blanks.
All right, so the majority, whatever it was, ruled that we did not want it. By state law, that's the reason that it's on this agenda today, is that we can turn it down like we did at the November election. I believe it was November, whatever it was. But I say that the people were heard in the last election to vote no for recreational marijuana in this town, and that's the way it should be held. I was a probation officer for 35 years in Worcester District Court. I've seen the ramifications of what marijuana and being a gateway drug does to the people of this state, and to other states. And I'm asking that we go ahead today, vote no, as recommended by the town in this particular article.
Point of order. When you say vote no, do you mean vote against
No.
the article or vote for the
Vote
article?
that we would not allow recreational sales and facilities in this town.
Thank you.
As it's written, the article would prohibit recreational marijuana sales and facilities.
Just clarifying. Thank you, Mr. Dow.
Thank you.
Over here.
My name is Ben DeMarsh, 44 Central Street, and I'd say from the Finance Committee and others said, this is a town that always is saying we need more businesses, we need more revenue, we need more money. So why would you basically take something that is legal, is, in my opinion, and many others, no worse or better than alcohol or tobacco, and say we don't want it in our town, even though not allowing people to buy it in our town doesn't mean it won't be in the town. There's going to be plenty of people who will just go one town over, buy it, bring it back. No problem. So why not take the money? And yeah, I think there probably should be more discussion on this rather than just a small majority of people saying, we don't want it, so put it on here. But so yeah, I think that we should vote no on this because we need the money and marijuana is no. And actually, if this passes, I expect that the next town meeting we will be banning alcohol, like many towns across this country have, because of the same sort of moral reason that alcohol is bad for you, tobacco is bad for you, and bad for the town. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McNally.
I stand corrected. The planning board did not vote to recommend approval of this bylaw. I was incorrect. It was the bylaws committee that did that. The planning board did not vote on this and did not have an opinion.
Thank you for clarifying. Mr. Crowley?
Mr. Burkall, Mr.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Mr. Burkall.
Gentlemen, as always. Obviously, this was a charged issue for discussion in the Finance Committee, but I'll speak personally. I have to agree with the gentleman that just spoke. This is not a reasonable cross-section of town. There's some 100 people here for this town. I really do personally feel it's inappropriate for this to be a forced discussion without the entire town being able to weigh in for a series of public forums and open debates. This seems like it is an attempt to override the normal intent of due process.
Thank you, Mr. McCall.
I want to be heard.
There's a line. So, 1, 2, 3. 1.
Pat Crowley, 64 Bowen. This is on the warrant because the Board of Selectmen voted to put this on the warrant. The vote was 3-2. So the Board of Selectmen is not united in this. I spoke against raising the age to purchase cigarettes in this town from 18 to 21. Because you're an adult when you're 18. We shouldn't be telling adults they can't purchase a legal product. It's a legal product now. For us to willy-nilly ban a legal product because there's a moral problem with it, let's ban soda, like they tried to do in Manhattan. Let's ban 32-ounce sodas because we have an obesity problem. We're adults. Let adults make the decision on what they want to purchase. And don't say, oh, I don't like it, we're going to ban it. And I'm not even speaking to the tax revenue. But when did we become a country that decides we're going to ban products we don't like? This is not something that we should be doing. It's a legal product. And for us to just say we're going to make it illegal, it doesn't make any sense. It's not what this country was founded on, limiting people's ability to do things.
Thank you, Mr. Crowley. Ms. Myers.
I'm not sure which side I'm voting on yet, and I'm not even sure that I think I agree that we need more discussion. I have some questions that have yet to be answered. Have we allowed or banned medical marijuana? That's my first question in this town.
Anybody got an answer to that?
Mr. Moderator?
Please.
We do have zoning that exists that allows for medical marijuana facilities in certain sections of town.
Okay. To the moderator and perhaps town council, it's my understanding through the grapevine that if there's a medical marijuana facility, it can convert to a recreational marijuana facility on its own and we have no say. Is that correct? That's what I've heard through the grapevine.
Does anyone know an answer?
Sharon Everett from KB Law Town Council. Actually, that's not quite correct.
Oh, good.
Because if you have a ban, just as we are proposing here, then a medical marijuana facility cannot convert into recreational marijuana facility.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. Third question that I have is what kind of tax revenue can we generate? I know that on the meals tax, it's 6.25% for the state, and then we get 0.75%. What kind of tax revenue can we get? Do we get to set it? Is it the state mandated? Do we not even know? Because we haven't really been all that efficient in state government.
Does
Mr.
anyone have an
Moderator?
answer? Yes, go ahead.
The state provides for a community to charge a 3% tax on marijuana sales.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. And last question that I have is, I've heard nothing from the Board of Health. Does anybody from the Board of Health have an opinion on whether or not we should have recreational marijuana in town?
Anyone from the Board of Health able to answer?
Don't we think as a community that we should get the Board of Health to have their opinion on whether or not this is a good idea before we vote on this article?
Thank you. Mr. Dow.
Bernie on 307 Prospect Street. I was a Board of Health member several years ago in West Boylston, so maybe they should. But anyhow, it's not as if people that want recreational marijuana have to go out of town. I mean, out of state. Worcester's going to have 15 dispensaries. Sterling, I believe, voted for marijuana, for recreational marijuana. Most likely they'll be able to go to Sterling. Holden, I believe, voted against it. But Worcester's going to have 15 dispensaries where you can pick up as much marijuana as legally possible. And this in Massachusetts, as of March 1st of 2016, some 18 months ago, in Massachusetts, only 2.8 people per 1,000 needed medical marijuana in the state. 2.8. We have only 6.8 million people in Massachusetts, and only 2.8 people out of 1,000 needed medical marijuana. There's no need. It's not like milk or eggs or something that we have to have within a mile because of our children and stuff. And also, read the statistics on how many accidents, motor vehicle accidents, have now occurred in Colorado by people driving under the influence of marijuana. It's 3 times higher the nose in Colorado for DUIs. This is not a good, and you have to get over the fact that you can get tax revenue in a lot of places, but this is not the place to get tax revenues, okay? Let them go to Worcester and pay the extra 3%. If you think that that's gonna change our tax rate, I think you're living in another world, because it just isn't gonna do it. But look at the harm it can do to your community, to the type of people, by the way, that come into the community to buy the marijuana, all right? I'm not here to pick on any particular person, but if
You just did.
Stop.
well, if you're admitting it, that's fine.
Order.
But at the same, but look at all the things. By the way, it's not as if very few people in town voted on this particular article. Almost 2/3 of the town came out. Some 4,400 people, 4,300 people came out and voted in the last referendum as to whether they wanted recreational marijuana in town. And we voted, the majority voted in a democratic process that we did not. And I don't know how we're going to hold a forum, an educational forum.
Mr. Dow.
I think it was brought up through the chair.
Some new ground, please.
Through the chair, through the finance committee, how an educational forum, we're going to get more people on an educational forum than we have here tonight. I think they were educated before they ever voted as to what is going on. They knew there were tax revenue benefits, but they voted apparently that they didn't want that type of tax revenue benefit.
Mr. Dow, any new ground?
That's my response. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. Over here.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Alan Phillips from Lee Street. I'm not a pothead. Chief, I'm not a pothead. I do have a question, though.
Let's not cast aspersions.
I'm not casting aspersions. I'm opening up a munchie store, so. My question is, how many communities have looked at this and adopted this already, and has this been challenged through the Attorney General's office?
Does anyone know an answer to that?
Mr. Moderator?
Please.
There are many communities that have passed this ban, and Attorney General takes the position that such a ban, such a general bylaw is acceptable. But it does need to be followed up by a zoning bylaw to prohibit the same thing, to make it legally effective.
So just a question.
Go ahead.
Can you define many, number one? Number two, so if this passes tonight, it's not valid unless there's a zoning bylaw, is that correct?
It has to be followed by a zoning bylaw, that's correct.
So it's a two-parter. Thank you.
Thank you. Over here.
Sam Wilt, 22 Townsend. I'm just getting a little confused on this because Townsend's right here. I drive my daughter to school. I pass 13 places you can buy liquor, but yet you are dismissing a store where you have to be 21. You can only own, what is it, an ounce at a time. They have the rules and regulations set forth, but yet I can walk into a liquor store, buy as much as I want, do whatever I want, and it's okay. But because some people morally don't think it's okay, we're going to pass up a legal business in our town that people want to bring to our town to have them visit our restaurants, buy the gas, buy the cigarettes if you're 21. There's other businesses they may see saying, hey, I need that, and now I'm here. So I think it'd be a travesty if we don't kind of table this or push it for more talk about what it really can bring to our community.
Thank you very much.
Thomas Walsh, 12 Meadowbrook Drive. This article doesn't stop people from bringing it into the town, from using it in the town, just stops them from buying it in the town. So, you know, points were made that, you know, people can get it in Sterling, people can get it in Worcester. So, you know, to me that seems like a lot of people driving through a lot of those same people that we don't want buying in our town will still be driving through our town. So, you know, it just doesn't seem, you know, some of the arguments presented don't seem to make sense as to, you know, why we don't want them buying it here, why we don't want the money, especially when, you know, in a state such as Colorado right now, where, you know, average dispensaries are bringing in over $500,000 a year. You know, that's a lot of money for this town. So, you know, the point that this should definitely further be explored, you know, is a valid one, and hope that's the route we take tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Burkett.
Mr. Moderator, thank you. Obviously, the preference of the Finance Committee would have been to pass over this article for lack of discussion, that not being an option. We've heard before that the town, as far as the referendum was concerned, was essentially split. So I would ask you, look around the room, do you feel like your neighbors, friends, and abutters are reasonably represented here? It would suggest, even if you are inclined to agree with the motion as it is, let's turn it down for now and have a real discussion so that everyone's voice is heard.
Thank you.
My question, Mark Frieden, 8 Power Drive. My question is sort of procedural. Would voting it down be an acceptance of allowing recreational marijuana sales in facilities, or would it just be that it has to come to town meeting again?
Anyone have an answer?
Unless it's prohibited by town meeting through a zoning bylaw, it's permitted.
Permitted right now?
Yes.
Okay. So voting this down would just continue the status quo?
Thank you. Here and then here.
Paul Anderson, 55 Bowen Street. I would like to point out that the issue on the voting ballot last November about the marijuana is not the same as this. It's two different things. And I don't quite understand why we're treating it differently than it's been mentioned before, than alcohol and cigarettes. I don't understand why we're turning away this business for a legal product.
Thank you.
My question is, can this be tabled and brought up at the spring meeting so we have time to have other discussion on it? Just based off the discussion tonight, tells me it needs more discussion.
Needs to be voted tonight, correct?
A motion could be made to pass over or to refer to committee.
Not to pass over, but to table. Not to pass over, but to table.
That's
the same as a Passover, correct?
Yes, you can lay on the table.
I'm not laying on the table. Maybe if I had some of that, I will. But we can pass over it or put it on the table until the spring meeting so we have time to discuss it, correct?
That's correct.
And I agree with you, Mr. McCall. We don't agree often, but this time I agree with you. Based off the discussion tonight, we need more discussion about it. Mr. Moderator, I don't agree with Mr. McCall often, but based off the discussion tonight, we do need more discussion on this whole topic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just to further expand on Mr. Phillips' comments, we could, if this was voted down this evening, there would be nothing to prevent us from bringing it back in the spring, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
And Edward Tomiolo, 40 Maplewood Ave. There's something else that we haven't talked about here, is cultivation. We're only talking about a small retail facility, but we have very little commercial tax base here in town. And so I know that there's many empty warehouses in our town, and so that why can't we even think about that when we think about how much we're going to make off of this? Because it's much more if you have a cultivation facility than if we're only getting 3% from one pot shop in town. So I wanted to make that clear to everyone here, that there's a lot more than just a small pot shop. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of Article 18 as moved, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I'm going to call that a no. Article fails. Article 19. We have 2 more to go. Please don't leave yet. Authorization to amend off-street parking section of the zoning bylaw. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to replace the off-street parking and loading section 5.2.A.1F to read as follows. Commercially licensed vehicles in excess of 20,000 pounds gross vehicle weight rating are prohibited from parking overnight in a residential zoning district except school buses or farm vehicles or construction equipment during actual construction on the site. The definition of gross vehicle weight rating is the maximum operating weight mass of a vehicle as specified by the manufacturer, including the vehicle's chassis, body, engine fluids, fuel, accessories, driver, passengers, and cargo.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any explanation or presentation?
The town has had issues over the past 16 months on enforcing the existing bylaw, which prohibits large commercial trucks parking overnight in a residential district. That matter is currently in court for a zoning enforcement matter over a truck in which the determination of a certain vehicle's weight is in question. After much discussion and feedback from residents, this proposed language now provides clear guidance as to how a truck GVW is determined in order to make compliance with its bylaw easier. This will not impact non-commercial trucks, nor will it impact the typical smaller commercial vehicles typically driven home by business owners or employees.
Thank you. Is there any further presentation or explanation? Any comment or recommendation from the town boards or committees?
Bylaws Committee recommends approval, and the Planning Board recommends approval on this.
Thank you. Any others? Any discussion?
My name is Cheryl Tomiolo, and I reside at 40 Maplewood Ave, West Boylston. I have an abutting neighbor that owns a large 10-wheel Mack diesel tractor truck, and it's kept on the property. The truck is very loud. It wakes us up when he leaves early in the morning, 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. When he returns home, the air brake release is very loud and startling. The fumes and smell are awful. If I go outside, they affect my breathing. I have had bronchitis several times, and my allergies have worsened. He repairs and idles the truck on his property for up to 1.5 hours, sometimes on a very high idle. Large trucks of this size should not be in a residential neighborhood. I am here because I don't want anyone else to have to endure this. It affects one's quality of life.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Edward Tomiolo, 40 Maplewood Ave. I'd like to speak a little about the residential neighborhoods that we're talking about. Some of the lot sizes are really small, 7,500 square feet. The driveways are close together, 40 feet apart. Narrow roads are only 20 feet wide. This is not country living. These heavy tractor trucks are damaging to these new roads that we have now. They're very large trucks, 10 wheels and 3 axles, some of them. And there's also the risk to children at play with these small street sizes. And then there's our quality of life issues. Smell from diesel fumes, vibrations shake our houses. There's excessive noise when he drives through the neighborhood. Then there's that emergency air brake when it's turned on. It's so startling. And then there's our health concerns. I have COPD, and my wife Cheryl has had bronchitis several times and allergies that have worsened. When we go outside, the fumes affect our breathing. And then there's the depreciation of home values. We believe a change in the bylaw is necessary. Large tractor trucks should not be parked overnight in residential neighborhoods. It has caused us a loss of quiet and peaceful enjoyment of our home and property. No one else should have to endure this unhealthy experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Any further discussion?
Through the moderator, can someone tell me how much the allowable gross vehicle weight is now?
Say no.
Right now it reads gross vehicle weight of 18,000 pounds.
So we're obviously increasing it by 2,000. Why is that, why that arbitrary figure, if I may, through the, does that mean that the gentleman's truck that's parked there would be in compliance then? I don't understand what we're, like, what the 2,000 pounds is for. Sounds like an arbitrary figure.
I'm not so sure it's obvious. Can anyone explain it, please?
Reason behind it is we had a presentation for a public hearing. We got a lot of feedback from guys that were in the business with trucks. And they explained that the big trick on this one was the idea of not so much the number of pounds, the 18,000 versus 20,000, but the wording that we used, gross vehicle weight, where we revised the wording to be gross vehicle weight rating. So it's a rating that comes from the manufacturer, so that you're not in a situation where any truck can get stripped down, put on a scale, and that's the gross vehicle weight. It's actually a rating of a vehicle determined by the manufacturer. So that clarifies the language.
Follow-up question.
Through the moderator, does this have anything to do with putting that, I don't know who the people are, putting that truck that is parked adjacent to Mr. Tom Hill and Mr. Tom Hill's property in compliance? Is that vehicle, if anybody knows, more than 18,000 GVW?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
I don't have the file in front of me, I apologize, but if I recall correctly, the gross vehicle weight rating for the type of truck that the Tomiolos were referring to was 80,000 pounds.
Rated. Four times what is allowed here? I'm just, again, through the moderator, I'm confused as to why this article is on.
Can I try to clarify it?
Sure.
Please do, Mr. Crowley.
Right now, the bylaw says a vehicle can weigh 18,000 pounds. The intent of the bylaw was gross vehicle weight rating, not your curb weight. The curb weight of the vehicle that's by the Tomiola's house may be 12,000 pounds. The gross vehicle weight rating, what it can haul, is 80,000 pounds. We're saying that we're not going to allow, if we pass this, we're not going to allow vehicles that, including their hauling capacity, exceed 20,000 pounds. So it's a specification by the manufacturer that includes, the biggest thing that adds to the weight is the hauling capacity of the vehicle.
I understand. What, if anybody knows, what's the gross vehicle weight of the abutter's truck? He must know.
The town administrator just said she believes the file said 80,000 pounds.
The truck doesn't weigh 80,000
No,
unless
that's-
it's loaded. What is a cab? I'm sure they're complaining about the cab size. Is anybody
The vehicle weighs less than 18,000 pounds.
The truck
itself weighs less than 18,000 pounds.
Was this article not put on the meeting agenda today because of this particular case?
The truck, the curb weight.
There's pending litigation and should not be commented on by a town official. So I don't think that's I don't think that's within the scope.
Okay, I'm asking what prompted this to be put on the article, to be put on the agenda tonight? I think that's a legitimate question.
What prompted this to be put on the article is that the bylaw as currently written is not clear. It does not define what that 18,000 pounds means.
Then why didn't you just leave it at 18,000 and put GVW on it?
Because we had a public hearing, and if we did an 18,000 pound GVWR vehicle, that would preclude some of the guys that plow snow with pickup trucks.
It most certainly would not. 18,000 GVW. That's enough. The plows, the dump trucks in town, with through the moderator, don't have an 18,000 GVW. They, with a low rate they do.
Mr. Dow? That's enough.
But I still didn't get the answer as to what prompted this to be on it.
You got an answer. The answer was, and was stated very clearly, that the bylaw was unclear. This clarifies it because gross vehicle weight rating is defined. It's a defined term that manufacturers use to describe how much stuff.
I understand that. It's on the side of the trucks also, through the manufacturer. It's on the side.
So you got an answer.
But it increased 2,000 pounds. Why?
Because it's a difference between rating and gross vehicle weight. The addition of the word rating makes a difference. That is what has been presented tonight. I don't have personal knowledge that it's different, but you have been asked and answered. Further discussion.
Rich Hammond from 145 Laurel Street. Just out of curiosity, this is in litigation? I mean,
That was stated.
If it's in litigation, why are we even voting, why is it even here being voted on?
That's right.
If it's in litigation, active litigation, you shouldn't even be here.
This does not determine the case.
That's true.
Town council?
This should be paid.
This amendment is of general applicability, and it helps define what gross vehicle weight is. It's commonly understood to mean what exactly it says in the amendment. And the purpose of it is just to make it clear that this is how we weigh vehicles. It's not directed to any particular vehicle, it just applies, and going forward, it applies to all vehicles.
Danny McCurry with 204 Lancaster Street. I love my town, I love my town officials, and I thank you guys for your tireless hours, your volunteers, and that's great. Unfortunately, the wool got pulled over the town's eyes. The wording is clear in the bylaw. It says GVW, GVWR. It's really a split of the hairs. GVWR, it's the rating by the manufacturer, but it's still the gross weight. What you're referring to, what unfortunately these people are going through, it's called a tare weight, T-A-R-E, and what that refers to is what the truck weighs empty. So if you go onto a certified scale, you pull your truck there empty, or in this case, a tractor with no trailer hooked up to it, that's your tare weight. If his tare weight is under 18,000, then the gentleman is already in violation. So like so many things across the country, we don't need more laws, let's just enforce the current laws. Through no fault of anybody here, if they don't have a truck history, that's through no fault of their own. Unfortunately, the wool was pulled over their eyes. Changing it from 18,000 to 20,000, all that does, it helps out a couple guys. It has nothing to do with their case, because their case, this gentleman's already in violation. So, it specifies in the current bylaw GVW. It's great now, let's present this, because now they've clarified it and they've expanded on what GVW is rating with the fuel tanks and the cargo and the fuel inside everything. So it's great we're expanding on that, but just so everybody's clear, he's already in violation and he just pulled the wool over the town's eyes.
Jill Wilt, 22 Townsend. This is disturbing. This is an active litigation, and you guys are going to go ahead and clarify it now. And I feel bad for the people that this is affecting, because I wouldn't want it to affect me. But if it's an active litigation and you guys are now defining it, is that going to alter the judgment of the case?
Leave it alone.
We can't comment on ongoing litigation.
Right, and so why are we talking about it tonight? Don't you think this should be taken care of after the litigation is over? Because I know if I was in a lawsuit right now, and I'm paying somebody to defend me, and you guys are going ahead and now defining, I'd be a little upset if it didn't go my way. Just saying.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Some new ground, please.
Paul Anderson, 55 Golden Street, member of the Planning Board. The Planning Board had a public hearing at our last meeting, and we had a lot of discussion about this issue. The Planning Board's intention was to hear from the people in the town. We had an idea to clarify the laws, and we heard from quite a few people who gave us much needed guidance on crafting a new bylaw which would protect people in this town from overweight trucks parked on their streets. We had a lot of people speak, and we get a lot of good information. This was the result. To clarify what the gross vehicle weight rating was. This has nothing to do with the pending legislation, the pending court case.
Thank you.
Jessica Florio, 5 Naples. How does this affect small business owners in our town? Whereas we have construction companies, we have landscape companies, etc., who may run their business out of their home. How does this affect, for example, if they have, say, a dump truck that they have to keep on their property because they can't afford to rent out commercial space to store their equipment? Would this affect them?
Good question. Does anyone know the answer?
Mark Friedney, Pinewood Drive, also a member of the planning board. This came up and we were very sensitive to this topic at our hearing. A number of people that you're describing showed up at the meeting, and that's kind of why it ended up with the language that's there and the weight that's there. I guess one of the things that's happening is trucks are getting a little bit more higher capacity, so the 18,000 was a little outdated. I think it was a car carrier or something like that, which is something that people do in town, is rated a little bit above 18,000. They were asking if we could update to accommodate them. I mean, to answer your question, we were very sensitive to that topic, and the way the wording came out accommodates them perfectly. It was a very nice meeting. Everyone left happy. It didn't start that way, but it ended up.
Okay, so I have a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
So, for example, I know somebody who runs a business out of their home, and if they have equipment already on their property that exceeds this, for example, it says large commercial vehicles that are not necessarily trucks, but maybe trailers or other like construction equipment. Like my father owns a landscape company and he has construction equipment. Is this going to be persecuted going forward? If he has to run his business out of the home, what can we do here? Is this something that has to be taken up with a specific board?
I think the question is of a generally applicable nature and not not just advice for one person, but generally.
So if a company already has the equipment on their property that's a residential property, do they have a certain amount of time to remove it, or are they allowed to continue on if it's not bothering anybody?
Anyone know an answer?
Well, the amendment here won't become effective until it's approved by the AG, and these regulations and amendments are published in the newspaper. So there's at least 90 days period. Will likely be more before it takes effect.
Is somebody going to be going around saying you have to remove these vehicles?
It will be published in the newspaper. We're required to publish it and post it before it becomes effective.
I'm not sure I have the answer, but I'm reading this, it says commercially licensed vehicles. I think a lot of times construction vehicles that are not on the road, backhoes, tractors that are not licensed, would probably not fall under this amendment. Am I correct? I'm sorry, I said that backhoes, tractors that are not commercially licensed or licensed to travel over the road would probably not fall under this amendment.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone know the answer to that? Mr. McNally?
I think what we're doing is we're trying to go forward with this bylaw, and if there's an existing business that's in violation currently, they're probably still going to be in violation under this bylaw, and enforcement will happen as swiftly as it has in the past. What we're trying to do here is clarify for going forward, that we're trying to get it clear so it will stand up in court if we ever have to go back to court. The court case that's underway is underway, and that's water under the bridge. but we'd like to not have to pay town council for any future actions.
Thank you. Further comments?
I have an understanding, and I'd just like to see if I can get confirmation from it. Speaking to that young lady's point, let's just say hypothetically somebody's parking a vehicle right now, gross vehicle weight 19,000. That's just, so he's, no, that wouldn't work. Let's say he's good now, but her concern was if the new law passes, would somebody who's in legal now get thrown out? Correct me if I'm wrong, wouldn't there be some sort of a grandfather clause protecting that?
Anyone have an answer?
If the person could prove that they've been there?
There's not always an answer. But
This question is being reviewed by them now, so we'll review it and get you an answer.
Thank you.
Can you speak into the mic? We can't hear you.
Rich Hammond again, 145 Laurel Street. It seems to me like it brought up these smaller lots. Is the town divided up into zones where there are very, very small lots, the 7,500 square foot lots, compared to somebody that has 3 acres? It's in a residential area with 3 acres. You're gonna tell somebody that they can't park their truck on their property of 3 acres? It doesn't make sense. I understand it in a small situation where there's 7,500 square foot lots. I get it. There should not be a 80,000 pound capable truck parked in a 7,500 square foot living lot. I get that. But there again, there's no definition as to, I get it, the residential, but shouldn't there be a zoned area as far as the smaller lots should have a different criteria?
Mr. McNally.
Right now, we only have single residence district and general residence districts, and it includes both the lots in the southern part of town, which are generally smaller, 10,000 square feet, as well as the ones in the northern portion of town, which can be over a couple of acres. So it covers any residential district. So there is that concern that in larger lots, it's usually not a problem, but then if there's a bunch of farms up where I grew up on campground, and we had trucks, and we still have trucks and tractors and things out there, and it's never a problem. It usually only comes up to be a problem when neighbors don't get along.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, this article requires a quantum of vote of 2/3. So you know the drill. And vote your conscience. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Let's count. Get your cards out, please. I've determined that the voice vote was too close to call for 2/3 majority. And so if the tellers would please come up here. Come see the assistant town clerk. Actually, hold on, tellers. Actually, go ahead and come up, but I'm gonna ask for people to hold up their cards before I send you out to count. So come on up and be ready, but before you go out to count, I'm gonna look and see, okay? All right, by showing your card now. All in favor of Article 19, please hold up your card. Cards down. Opposed? Still too close. We're going to have to count.
Barbara's over here. You know, 1, 2. Both and go back. Go back. And you. I do. All the way. You guys. I haven't taken a bus.
All right, once the tellers are in position, we're going to vote again.
All the way through.
Are the tellers in position?
Why don't I go on the other side with Phil?
Just a moment. We good? Not yet, okay.
This one?
All right. Third time's the charm. All in favor of Article 19. Raise your cards. Keep it up until I say to take it down, please. We want to make sure the tellers count your vote. Tellers, once you've counted your section, please return down to the piano.
I got 9, did you?
Keep them up. I'm sorry if your hand is tired.
Oh, no, you got this. These are the people up.
All right. You may put your cards down. At this point, all opposed to Article 19, please raise your card. Keep them up, and we don't want to miss your vote. Tellers, please come report your counts.
See what she does. I added mine. You can put your cards down. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you all for your patience. There were 82 yes votes, 30 no votes. So the quantum of 2/3 has been surpassed. The ayes have it. Article 19 passes. Article 20, the last one. This is authorization to amend the signs and billboards section of the zoning bylaw. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to delete in its entirety Section 5.6.D.3.E.V of the West Boylston zoning bylaws.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any explanation or presentation?
Hopefully this one will be a little less contentious. This change will allow the electronic signs in town to have pictures on them instead of just words. You are still not going to be allowed to have scrolling text. That will still not be allowed, but you can have pictures on the signs if we approve this article.
Thank you. Any comments or recommendations from town boards and committees?
Bylaws Committee and Planning Board recommend approval of this.
Thank you. Any others? Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That was good. That was unanimous. That was the 2/3. I didn't tell you ahead of time, but you did great. That is the last article on the warrant.
Motion adjourned. Second.
Before we consider that, the motion actually is should be a motion to dissolve rather than to adjourn.
Motion to dissolve. Second.
Hang on. And so, because I'm not sure what to do if we adjourn, could we vote no to adjourn and then entertain a motion to
I
dissolve?
withdraw my motion to adjourn. I withdraw the second. No, I just withdrew it. Now it doesn't-
Can we just vote it down for clarity, please? So, all in favor of adjourning, don't do it.
No.
Say aye. Aye. All opposed? No. Great, we're not adjourned. Now, can somebody please move to dissolve the meeting?
Dissolve. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of dissolving the meeting, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? We're dissolved. Thank you very much. See you in May.